Hi guys, James at RampantLionReviews again for you today with another beer review. For this one we are going to stick to Sweden. We're going to head up towards Gothenburg once again, Göteborg as you would say in Swedish, the Swedish craft beer capital, and we're returning to a brewery who have a very good reputation, and quite rightly so in my experience. These guys are very good at any style that they try as far as I've seen, and I would say though that they are more well known for the kind of hazy New England, Swedish West Coast type IPAs, whatever you want to call them, and I've had some very good beers from them in this category as well. So for this review then, we are going to return to OO Brewing, and today we're having a look at one of the series of beers that I've never reviewed before. I've seen them around, but this is the first one that they've released through Systembolaget here in Sweden. So this one is the 50/50 Mosaic Citra IPA, coming in at 6.5% ABV, New England Hazy, Swedish West Coast IPA, whatever you want to call it, and it should be very nice, this one. So these cans are very recognisable because they're always, you know, basically dual banded like this, two different colours. It just depends on what hops are in them. One that I saw from this series that I was very interested in was the Enigma Nelson Sauvin. You know, those lovely, both of those hops are quite similar of course, so I would wonder about the contrast, but the white grapey notes, but with Enigma you do have a little bit of that kind of that sort of red fruity quality to it as well. But I think this is a good one to release as the first one in Sweden because, you know, Mosaic and Citra are kind of classic American hops these days. Citra with the lovely mangoey and softer tropical fruit notes, lots of complexities from Citra sometimes actually, and then you've got Mosaic which has the lovely kind of tangerine orangey notes, and you get a little bit of, sometimes you get a wee bit of pineapple and some blueberry and things like that from Mosaic as well actually. So I think this is a very good one for the first release of this series in Sweden. One of my Swedish craft beer kind of compadres, if you like, with I talked to a few of them on Instagram. I forget exactly who it was that was telling me, so apologies, but he was telling me that apparently they're going to release one of these every month through the Småskaligt assortment here in Sweden, which will be great actually. And these beers I think are very good because it lets you see, with the 100 series, it lets you see how the hop behaves on its own. The last beer I reviewed from these guys of course was the 100 Citra, and with the 50/50 series it lets you see how the different hops kind of interact and they can complement and contrast each other, which is always good. That's one I love doing beer reviews like this, where you can sit and talk about the hop a little bit more and the malts and things like that too, if you get opportunities like that. So yeah, really curious to see how this one turns out. Good to finally see this beer available on the more mainstream in Sweden. Of course you can order these ones through the likes of Glassbanken and things like that, but I don't order that much beer online, I have to say. Most of the stuff comes from Systembolaget and the different ranges they do, or from Kiosk and a few other places over in Copenhagen actually. So yeah, let's see how we get on with this one. A 6.5% New England Hazy, Swedish West Coast, whatever you want to call it, IPA. So as always with my reviews then, I'll tell you a little bit about the brewery before we taste the beer. If you want to get straight to the tasting, just fast forward. All the usual links are in the description below. That's the brewery website, the link to my other OO reviews that I've done before. No doubt there will be some more at some point in the near future. I will try and review their release every month if they are doing this, because I like these kind of beers. There's all the usual social media down there as well. If you want to see more reviews, do please consider subscribing to the channel. The whole channel of course has a geography based tagging system, so you can go into the homepage and search for beer based on country, city, state, county, prefecture, whatever it is you're interested in. Do check out the playlist of beers from different countries. There is one there for all the Swedish beers that I've reviewed for you. That's constantly being added to. And as always, please do get in touch and let me know some of the other beers and breweries that you guys would like to see me review. It's always great to hear from you guys that are watching the videos, and the support that you show the channel is hugely appreciated. So anyway, on to my brewery notes then, to tell you a little bit about OO Brewing. So as I've said to you already, OO Brewing are based in Gothenburg on the west coast of Sweden, and they were founded back in 2011 by Olaf and Ole Andersson. They're not related, but they are childhood friends. For many years they were also avid home brewers, and you know, they've been very interested in beers from a young age, and Ole apparently has been heavily involved in the Gothenburg craft beer scene since pre-drinking age. He of course kind of shot to beer geek fame, if you like, with his time at Stigbergets Brewery, and this is where the original OO beers were produced. He was the creator of the GBG Beer Week and the Amazing Haze, and at the same time OO Brewing released the Narangi, and you know, probably Amazing Haze and Narangi are two kind of classic Swedish craft beers these days. You know, they've kind of got a little bit of that cult status. But while Ole is doing the brewing, he's the head brewer, of course, at OO Brewing. Olaf manages the business side of the brewery, but he also works at Copenhagen, in Copenhagen, sorry, at a marketing agency. And the beers that these guys produce, it's just stuff that they would like to drink themselves, they say. But in April of 2017, Ole left Stig Bergets Brewery to invest his time fully in OO, and the company invested in a brewery in Hisingen near the Tingstead Bridge, and this one is equipped with a 2,000 litre brewing system, and this means they can brew up to 500,000 litres of beer per year. Across 2018 they produced around 100,000 litres of beer per year, and they're gradually just expanding up their brewing to meet that 500,000 litre capacity mark, I guess you could say, over the next few years. They are a very prolific brewery, particularly in the 100 series and the 50/50 series. I think they're wanting to release a new one of these every month, as I said to you, and they also have other releases, like they'll release porters and things. They have the I forget the name of the pills that I reviewed a while back ago. Was it Prima Pills? I can't remember, but they're very good when it comes to German, to the more kind of classic styles of beer as well. Actually, the Pilsner was very nice. They release barley wines and imperial stouts, the Arctos and the Long Boil. I think they do a new iteration of those every year actually, and those are definitely worth checking out as well. So yeah, a really interesting brewery, this one, very very well respected in Swedish craft beer circles, and one that you definitely want to try out if you get the chance. So yeah, let's leave it at that for the history side of things. If you want to learn more, of course, you can check out the brewery website in the description below. You can follow them on Facebook and Instagram to keep up to date with all the latest goings on, and you can check out the Rate Beer, Untappd and Beer Advocate pages to learn more about the different beers that they've done. So yeah, let's get on and actually have a taste of this one then. So I'll just let you have a little look at the artwork on this one before we open it up. You know, it is pretty straightforward. Like I said to you, the 50/50 series, it is just you know, double banded like this. The 100 Citra that I reviewed for you last month, that was just, you know, straight up yellow. I don't know actually, I can't remember if I was told that they will be releasing either one of the 50/50s or one of the 100s every month, but as far as I can remember, this one is the first 50/50 to be released, sorry, through Systembolaget here in Sweden, and the 100 Citra was the first one of the 100 series to be released here, so long may that continue. Let's get this guy out then and we'll get on to the tasting. You can see there is the OO Brewing symbol there. I guess OO just comes from Olaf and Ole, the two main guys behind the brewery. So yeah, let's get this guy out and we will get on with the tasting then. Really curious to see what this has in store for us. One thing I have to admit I would really love to see OO Brewing have a go at is a proper old school American West Coast IPA. The mussels, if I remember rightly, you can still get the mussels in fairness, so maybe I'm making a kind of moot point here. But the Mussels IPA from OO is a really beautiful beer, and I remember that being quite sweet and caramelly, like you would get from a West Coast IPA. So if you want something a bit more bitter, you know, probably the two beers I would really recommend that you try from this brewery would be, yes, Mussels. Evergreen I think is quite good as well actually. Both of those, if you want a stronger one, I remember go for the Mussels, but if you want a more if you want something a little bit lighter, then the Evergreen's also a very good choice as well. It's more kind of akin to a West Coast version of this, but then also the Narangi. Those are two very kind of classic Swedish craft beers in my mind, but of course it's with the haze craze, it's Narangi that gets all the plaudits, but Evergreen and Mussels are both awesome beers as well. So yeah, make sure you try those, but it'd be cool to see them do you know, the 50/50 series with the West Coast side of things too. I think that would be a nice, interesting contrast. I don't think I've ever had a black IPA from OO Brewing as well, come to think of it, so that would be an interesting direction for them to go, and maybe even a Quake IPA. That could be quite cool. So yeah, as you can see with this one, and as you would expect, this is poured a lovely kind of bright, this one's more, it's kind of in the middle of yellow and orange, I would say. You can see the head on this one was about 1.5 fingers. It's starting to fade away. This is one of the more bumpy heads that I've come across in recent times. The bubbles are a little bit bigger, but nothing wrong with that, of course. But in terms of appearance, this one looks pretty much exactly how you'd expect. So one or two big bubbles sticking towards the side of the glass there, and a few little ones going up towards the bottom of that head. But you know, overall, It looks really nice and pretty much what you would expect from a kind of hazy New England IPA. So let's have a closer look at that aroma then and see how we get on. Oh yeah, that's really nice. Straight away it's the juicy fruits that jump out at you. You've got that lovely kind of mango-y quality. Yeah, lovely juicy mangoes in there. You can pick up a few of the more kind of complex notes out of this. You can get that little bit of lemon and limey note from the Citra as well. But the juicy oranges, the oranges for me come out a little bit more in the front of the nose, and I think the tropical fruits come out in the towards the back of the nose. But it's a very, very juicy smelling beer, this. You've also got the yeah, you've also got a little bit of that that kind of big sort of floral aromatic note that you're going to get from both of these hops. I mean, if I remember rightly, Citra is like 11% alpha acid, whereas Mosaic is like 13 or 14. So you know, you're getting a big kind of floral aromatic bite out of this one. Some lighter grassy notes in there as well, but I think the green side of the hops really leans towards the floral side of things. You do get a little bit of earthiness out of this one for me, and that's the Mosaic that's giving you that. But the juicy oranges, as I say, they come out more towards the front of the nose. You get the softer tropical fruits. Kind of, it feels like it's out towards the side a little bit, which is interesting. I really like how the aroma of this one goes together. It smells like a very classic beer, this one. I mean, this one really isn't doing anything surprising, and that these days, you know, there's so many hazy IPAs out there. You know, the style isn't going to surprise you anymore at this point. It's about whether it's well crafted, and you know, knowing this brewery, they've got a very solid base recipe when it comes to these hazy IPAs, and I'm sure this one will be pretty damn good. But yeah, lovely juicy smelling fruity note out of this one, which we've described a bit more in depth. On the malty side of things, and this is where these beers get interesting, I'd say that this one, you can pick out some of the oaty creaminess, but to me this one, it leans a little bit more towards the wheaty, more bitey side of things. And as I've said in other reviews, I've always found, in the beers that I've had recently from the States, Treehouse is the more kind of creamy one. Trillium, they have a bit more of the hoppy bite, whereas the Alchemist ones are a little bit more sort of farmhousey. And I've not tried Hill Farmstead yet. That's something that's coming later in the year. So yeah, that's the aromas out of this are lovely. This one leans definitely more towards that wheaty, bitey sort of thing. You get a little bit of biscuit in there. You do get some of the oaty creaminess, but I think the malt base of this is a little bit more wheaty. And I can't remember compared to the 100 Citra. I thought the 100 Citra was maybe a little bit more, it had a little bit of it, but I remember it being a bit more creamy. But yeah, take a bit of time and enjoy the aroma of this one before you get stuck into it. But it might just be how fresh I'm drinking this one. I can't remember how fresh I would have drunk. I think the Citra, the 100 Citra, it might have been sitting for a little week or so more. So maybe, as I always say with these hazy IPAs, you need to let them mellow out in the can for a little bit actually. But I'm drinking this one. It was released on the 1st and I'm drinking it on the 11th, so just shy of 2 weeks, a week and a half. So yeah, let's have a taste of this one then and see how we go on. Take a bit of time and enjoy that aroma because it is very nice. This one is the 50/50 Mosaic Citra IPA, 6.5% from OO Brewing in Gothenburg here in Sweden. Let's get stuck in. Slange, skål. Yeah, that's really nice. The first thing that strikes me about it is that it's very smooth, and I like that. And it does. I was saying that in the aroma it came across as a little bit more wheaty and bitey, but in the actual flavour it comes across as being a bit more smooth. So yeah, this is good. I mean, it's very kind of, it is very similar to what the to what they've released otherwise. I mean, you've got the Bangatan IPA. You've got, as I say, you've got the 100 Citra. I forget the one that I had recently. It was more of an imperial one that had the honey. added into it. The name of that beer has gone right out of my head. But I mean, if you know this brewery, this one is pretty much exactly what you would expect from them. It's solid. So again, thumbs up to OO Brewing. You can't ask for more than that these days from these New England IPAs, because we really know what to expect from these. You can just ask that they're well crafted, and this one really is, and it's 2 classic hops. So let's talk a little bit more about the flavour of this one then, because it is good, I'll say that straight away. The big question is always, would you buy the beer again? I would, yeah. So yeah, middle of your palate then, you've got that lovely kind of, you've really got that lovely kind of smooth, wheaty, white bready note. That blankets the middle of the tongue. I would say that the further you go into the aftertaste, you can feel a little bit of the wheatiness pushing its way out. So it does have a little bit of that wheaty bitiness, especially towards the back of the tongue. As you come further forward though, you can feel it sort of transition into a more smooth, oaty creaminess, and in the middle of the palate you do get a little bit of a biscuity sweetness there, which is quite nice. But I would say it feels the biscuity notes are very minimal. I would say it's a little bit more between the it is definitely more between the kind of wheaty bitiness at the back of the palate and then that balancing out with the kind of more oaty creaminess towards the front of the tongue. On the hoppy side of things then, you've got a little bit of that earthiness that I was talking about from Mosaic. That comes out at the back, in the back corners of the palate, but as you come further forward along the side of the tongue, that very quickly moves to be quite a nice kind of floral aromatic note. It's not too spicy, and it's not sort of dank or anything like that, but it's just got a little bit of that kind of nice floral spiciness on the side of the palate. As I say, not too heavy on that, but round the front curve of the palate you've got that lighter grassy flavour there, which just gives you a wee bit of a zestiness almost in the front of the palate, which is nice. But let's focus on the fruity side of this beer. As I always say, the little oily bubble that comes out behind the front curve of your tongue, you can just feel it sort of rolling out there. That's where you get all the fruity esters that they extract from the hops in the brewing. So yeah. So yeah, to me, I think this one, I think the Citra comes out a little bit more than the Mosaic, in fairness. I think generally this beer, it leans towards the tropical side of things. I think that is a fair statement. I find this one more tropical than I do Mosaic-y. And I guess the thing what you talk about with Mosaic, I'm a big fan of the kind of orangey leaning IPAs. So the hops that I'm always interested in, of course, would be the likes of Amarillo. Amarillo, the big oily orangey notes. Mosaic, of course, you've got Azaka. Sabro is the new boy on the block. In New Zealand you have, if I remember rightly, it's Waiiti and Pacifica, and you've also got Mandarina Bavaria from Germany, which is really interesting. So yeah, you know, there's a lot of really good orangey hops out there, and I do wonder, you know, Mosaic, the orangey flavours are a bit softer, so I do wonder if the orange would come out a little bit more with Amarillo and it being a little bit more oily, because then you've also got that oily character to contrast the kind of soft juiciness that you'll get from Citra. Whereas Mosaic, again, you know, this is one of the kind of common properties they have, is I find both of these hops are always very light and kind of juicy in their flavours. It's like if you compare Simcoe as well with Galaxy, the passion fruit you get out of that always has a bit more of a bite to it, whereas Simcoe, it's just that little bit smoother in my experience. But again, it's also down to the malts that you use. Potentially if you did this beer as a West Coast IPA, it might come out differently, because it's all about how the hops interact with the malts as well. And that's what I mean. I think it would be really cool if OO Brewing did this sort of 50-50 series. If they took the base recipe they have for mussels, for example, or Evergreen, whichever one. I think Evergreen's the 6.5% one, so potentially that. If they took the base recipe for mussels and did the 50-50 series as a West Coast thing as well, I think that could be a really interesting sort of learning experience as well. But yeah, I really think that this beer generally leans towards the more kind of tropical side of things. As I say, the one that I would really be interested to try would be a 100. I'd love 100 Amarillo just for nostalgic purposes, but when I think about it, the Enigma Nelson Sauvin would have been really interesting, so I hope that one appears in Sweden But Amarillo, you know, an Amarillo Citra one, I think would be quite an interesting comparison to make to this. But you know, this is what this series is all about. Is to kind of I think it's to teach you about the hops and see how they all go together. But it's just to create good beer, and you know they've done that. But this is really more tropical leaning. So let's break down this fruity side of the beer. So yeah, if you go towards the back of that sort of oily bubble that I was talking about, you do get a wee bit of that darker grapefruity, passion fruity sort of thing. That's quite minimal though, and very quickly as you move forward the beer gets a little bit more mangoey, juicy and things, and as you come, you know, as you almost reach the front tip of the tongue, you do get a little bit of that kind of tangerine orangey juicy kind of thing. Between the tangerine oranges and the more mangoey type qualities, you've got a little bit of a smooth, you do have a little bit of that, the kind of sort of tropically complex things that you can get from Citra. So it's a little bit like papaya. I don't know if I'd quite say pineapple. I think it is like a little bit, it is a little bit papaya, apricot maybe. I don't know. It's papaya that really springs to mind for this one, for the fruity side of the beer. If you go to the very tip of your tongue in the centre too, I think there's a little bit of a kind of blueberry quality to this one as well, which is interesting. So, and that's one of the wee complexities you can get out of Mosaic as well. So really at the very front tip of the tongue, that's where the tangerine oranges and the blueberry, the sort of mosaic-y qualities come out. But if you go further back from that, it's really the Citra, I think, that comes out there. I would say you get a little bit more of the tangerine orange in the aftertaste, but when you first take the beer in, it is a little bit more about the Citra in my mind. So yeah, this one is really nice. I mean, these hops, they do contrast each other in quite a nice way, but I would say that generally I think the Citra flavours and probably the complexities you get from them, they dominate the Mosaic a little bit in my mind. And it's interesting when you think about it, because Mosaic, as I say, is a stronger hop basically. It's a higher alpha acid hop than Citra is, but Citra does have the more complex flavours. So it's just interesting from a chemistry perspective. I studied chemistry as my first degree back in Scotland and Germany later. You know, it's interesting to think about this from the chemistry perspective as well. I need to learn a little bit more about brewing, the specific chemistry of brewing, but I think this is a really interesting beer, and I like doing reviews like this where you can sit and think about the ingredients a little bit more. But as a beer, generally I really like this one, and I'd be very curious to try the Citra Amarillo that they did at one point as well. So hopefully that appears at some point in the future too. So yeah, let's look at the mouthfeel then. So the mouthfeel, it's you know, it's a mid-bodied beer. Carbonation is very smooth, as you'd expect. I'd say that this one, it has a balance between being a smooth and a quite wet mouthfeel. This isn't the creamiest of New England IPAs that you're going to come across. I wouldn't be surprised if you go to the back of the palate, the beer does have a bit of crispness, so I wouldn't be surprised if there's a wee bit of like Pilsner malt in here or something. That really seems to be a trend with the Scandinavian brewers at the moment, is a bit of Pilsner malt to crispen up the beer at the back of the palate. In terms of the hoppy side of things, it's definitely a sort of 30, I think this is a 30, maybe 40 IBUs at a push. Malt base, very, very smooth. There's a wee touch of sweetness to it, and you've got a lovely big kind of juicy, fruity quality to this beer as well. But overall, a really solid one, and it's good to sit and think about how these hops sort of interact together. So I would call this kind of quite an educational beer, but if you just don't want to think about it, it is pretty damn solid. So, you know, for me, being a bit of a nerd, you know, this is an interesting one to sit down and review. But if you just want a good beer to drink, you're going to be satisfied in that way as well. So thumbs up to OO Brewing once again, and I hope you guys watching have enjoyed this review as well. It's a bit more of a ramble from me, this one, but I like thinking about stuff like this. That's what happens when you're in the sort of science field, if you like. But yeah, let's leave it at that for this one. So this one was the 50/50 Mosaic Citra IPA, coming in at 6.5% ABV from OO Brewing in Gothenburg here in Sweden. A really solid IPA, and it's definitely given me a bit of food for thought when it comes to the Mosaic and the Citra hops. So yeah, thank you again for watching my beer reviews. Until the next time, please like, subscribe, share, all the usual YouTube stuff. Let me know your own thoughts on this beer in the comment section below. Let me know what your favourite beers are. from OO Brewing as well. Thank you again for watching, and I will catch you guys at some point soon, and we will be reviewing the either the 100 or the 50/50 or whatever it is that OO Brewing release every month. Until the next time, Slàinte just now, and I'll catch you guys later. Slàinte, skål, make sure you check out OO Brewing. Cheers.